we're going to look at borders a little bit more in depth than what we saw earlier. So there's a number of different kinds of styles that you can use with borders, and they're really good for sectioning off areas inside of your page. All right, so down here, we have this border that we created earlier. Very simple, so it's just dashed, it's black, it's 1 pixel. So this is the one we're dealing with, containing basically the left side column of our 2-column layout in this middle section of the web page. So these can be changed. We have this border here. I go to 5 pixels. That's obviously going to be pretty big. So you can see that has a different effect on things. And as well, that's increasing the width. So you notice our copyright now looks as though it's actually lining up on the edge over here. If I bring this back to the 1 pixel, and then over here we're going to refresh, our copyright's down in the middle. If we do this right align with our text align and refresh, you can see the copyright looks as though it's jumping out over the edge. There's a little bit of it coming out on the right side. This is actually due to the fact that we're not making use of the entire width right here. So let's take our main div, which is this container, and we're going to add a border. And you'll see what I mean by that. Go up here, semicolon, add our border, refresh. So here you can see this comes out over the edge. That's why this is allowed to go out over the edge like that. So the 2-column area is actually a little bit skinnier than the overall width that our container div has us inside of. Okay, so now back to our divs, and I'm going to just remove this one so we don't have too many of those. We can break the div down, the border down, into component pieces. So here we have this dashed. What if we wanted to do something that targeted just the styling of the border? So as mentioned, we can take this, move it back like that, remove that width, save that, and refresh. Basically, we don't get much change. We're having some of our styling from above kind of wash over this because we're getting the coloring from the silver, which is coming from this right here, because we're not explicitly setting the color anymore on that border. If we were, it would override what's going on up here with the body and the silver coloring. So again, this is just the one, which is style. We could also be explicit and call it style like that, border style. Refresh that. You can see there's no change. Now, anything that we apply here is just going to be for the style. So we can't come in here and put our 1 pixel like this. And we'd want to do as well what we had earlier with black. Refresh that. So that's not going to apply. It's actually going to be an error. And the rule basically gets ignored whenever you do something like that. So since we're going to look at style, we're just going to look at a few different ones. We're going to bring that back. We're going to make use of just the style values. So there are quite a few of them. You have dotted, you have dash, you have what we saw solid, you've got double, groove, ridge, insert, outset. And those two are kind of like embossed. So if we do an inset and go ahead and refresh, you can see what I mean here. This kind of has a 3-dimensional look to it. We can do an outset as well. Save that. Just the reverse of that. So again, it still looks like a 3-dimensional look. Then you can bring in some of these other parameters. So we want a 1 pixel width. We want to go black. So we override that silver, refresh this. It looks as though the characteristics went away. We don't have that embossed look anymore, although we are using this outset style. The problem is that our width is too small. So let's change that to a 5 and refresh. So now we're getting a little bit of differences. And additionally, the coloring is coming into play. So it's something to keep in mind. When depending on the kind you're using, you can affect the look of that border. So this right here is supposed to have this 3D effect. You can barely see it. And what it needs to do is shadowing. Because we're using black, it's hard to see any kind of shadows. So in that case, we change this out, go to a yellow, which is a lighter color, should work well with shadowing. Go ahead and refresh that, and you can see it does. So you can see over here, this side's a little bit darker, and it's like there's a light coming from the top left and shining across this. Now, something else we did that we can also do here is target some of these. So let's see if we want to do on our sections, we might want to do this kind of border. So I'm going to take the border off of here like that. And let's just make sure this is all good. We didn't break anything. All right, so we want to target these sections. I'm going to go up here to our styling because we have two sections. We're basically reusing this code. So what are we doing? What's the value of the section going to be? I'm going to place the border in there. Save that. We're not going to go at the 5. We're just going to do a 3, something not quite as big. Okay, so we have this section here. Then we have our form section as well. 2 of those. We should get 2 borders. Refresh this, and that's exactly what happens. So what if we want to use multiple styles? I'm going to continue right here with our sections, and we're just going to remove the 3 value pieces here and make use of style because we're going to use multiple styling values. So let's say we want ridge, we want double. Save that, refresh over here, and actually it would probably help if we were to just look at them one at a time. So let's see what the effect of double is. Refresh that. So double kind of, you have the 2 lines going on, and ridge may not be a good one to do because of compatibility. So we can use dotted. So we use dash, now we're going to use dotted. Refresh this, and we get the effect of 2 different styles that are going on. So we have dotted. What if we added another? Because you can keep chaining these together. Refresh that, and you can see what it's doing. It's trying to incorporate all those different styles into just the one border. And you kind of end up with this hodgepodge. But depending on the effect you're going for, also making sure that you got compatibility with these different styles, some are not kind of washing out the other one, then it may be something you would want to use. So what if we want to do a border just on certain sections? So for these styles, what I'm going to do is just change them back, and we are going to remove multiple styles. What we're going to do is target the top, the right, the bottom, the left, and the way we're going to do that is border whatever you're targeting, whatever side you're targeting. So border dash target dash style. So something like this. Okay, so where these brackets are, this is what the value is that we're going to target. Let's say we want to target the bottom like that, and we want it to be dashed. Okay, so our sections should only have a line running across the bottom of them. Go ahead and refresh that. It's exactly what's happening, and this can be great for some kind of divider. Now, you can also use an HR, which you're probably familiar with, where you have a horizontal line, but that's going to fit in a different area versus the border around this different component. And you can adjust things with, by moving things up and down with padding, with margin, the width of something. You can adjust it up or down, but you may get exactly what you want just by using a side of your container, whatever your container is. In this case, our container is section. So what if I want to target the top, which I can do like that. Refresh that. So now they move up there. And then what if I want to target the top and the bottom? So I'm going to add a new line here, change this one to bottom, and I'm going to use, let's use solid in this case. Refresh, and there we are. So there's a lot you can do with those. Now, another popular feature is to use rounded borders. So the way to set that up, we're going to remove this one. You need 2 lines to do it. We're going to use our triple value here. We're going to get 1 pixel. We're going to keep it as dashed and black. Okay, so we're just going to check this, make sure that looks good, and it does. So for the rounded borders, we also introduce border radius like this, and then you give it a value for how much do you want the corners to basically curve. We're just going to use 5 pixels. Go ahead and end that with a semicolon and refresh. So you can see here we're getting that curvature on our border. We have the field set in our form that's kind of masking this a little bit. Come down here into our form, just open this up real quick. You can see this field set is creating that border around the form fields, but you can see on the top one really well, we're getting the curvature there, and we can change this. So what if we did something like 20px just to get a good contrast between the 5 and the 20 as to what's going on with those. So the higher the value, the more curvature. If you want something very subtle, you may just want to use 2 pixels, refresh that. So extremely subtle, but you can still see there's some curvature going on, and it probably works better with a solid style on your borders. So there we are. And put that as a 3. So now you can see it better. Still very subtle, though, a little bit more subtle than the 5 pixel. So that is how to use borders, a lot of the different attributes that you can use with them as well.